Okay, so taking you through the dissection of this frog. And first steps is to get underneath the skin. The skin is really paper thin, and you just need to make a little incision right there at the base of the legs, the bottom of the abdomen, and snip all the way up to the chin. And just get right underneath between the skin and the muscle tissue. It's really easy to cut because it is extremely thin. And then kind of pulling it apart just to get it away from the muscle and so that I can trim it away on the sides. So that's what I'm doing next. And if you'll notice, once I'm done trimming, and I'll even show it on the video, that you can really see a very large, extensive network of blood vessels underneath the skin. That's what you see there, all the little lines there. So we don't need the skin for the dissection, so we're snipping that away. There you go. There's your vascular network underneath the skin. All right. Now the next thing is muscle, and same kind of thing. Got to make a little incision there. Now you have organs right underneath, so you want to make sure you don't cut through the organs. So just above the organs and beneath the muscle, and at the top you have to cut through the clavicle, and that's what I did right up at the top of the chest. So we're trimming away muscles so we can expose organs. That's what we want to get to with these dissections. Try not to waste any time with any kind of intricate cuts. We want to get maximum exposure of the organs in the body cavity because the systems are the reason we do these dissections, and where we're going to see most of the systems that we've studied are going to be right there in the chest cavity, and so that's why we do it. Now I'm snipping the arm off because, again, saving time. We don't use dissecting pans in class because it takes too long for the kids to have to wash them. So we're just using newsprint, butcher paper, and laying the frogs on there. And the arms are, the rigor obviously is set in on these frogs, so the arms are kind of in the way when you're trying to look at the body cavity. So I tend to tell my kids to just snip them unless they feel like they're not in the way. But look at maximum exposure. Cut that muscle and skin all the way over to the side. And now you can see all the organs we need to see right there in the front. That big organ that you see right at the front, that's the large three-lobed liver. Okay, and so usually the first order of business is to kind of get that out of the way, because until you do, really it's hard to get to any of the other organs. So we're snipping underneath. There's some tissue, really thin tissue that connects it to the body cavity, and it's easy to get around that and snip away. Now, right above it is the heart. You see that little dark and white organ. You don't want to snip that, so you got to be careful as you're going around that, but that's the heart. There's one lung that I'm pulling out there. But now you've exposed some of the other organs, the heart right underneath at the stomach. So there's the big three-lobed liver. In other words, it's got three big parts. There's the gallbladder right there tucked in underneath it. I'm holding it with the forceps. That's the gallbladder. And the three lobes of the liver, extremely large organ in the frog. It's large in us too, but it's really big in comparison to the size of the frog there. There's one lung. There's the other lung. That's the heart right there. And again, it's just kind of attached with some tissue underneath, and snip around it carefully so that you can keep it in one piece. The frog heart only has 3 chambers. It's got 2 atria, those are the top chambers, but it only has 1 ventricle, that's the lower chamber. Whereas we have 2 ventricles, so we have 4-chambered heart, they have a 3-chambered heart. There it is, that's the heart. All right, there's 1 lung, we're going to snip that out of there. Very spongy, kind of grayish looking organs. There's the other one, we're going to snip that out of there. And with my students, when we're doing this in class, we'd have a paper, and I'll show you the paper in a little while, where you're laying the organs on the paper. The paper is labeled, so you're just putting the organs down where they're supposed to go on that paper. All right. Now we're getting underneath that stomach and cutting it right at the very short esophagus. It barely has any esophagus, just almost really at the back of the throat, attaches to the top of the stomach. And then right at the base of the small intestine, that's the other part. I'm going to cut it longitudinally, in other words, lengthwise, so that we can kind of see inside. And you can see that it's a very muscular, ridged organ like that for grinding up food. The frogs don't have teeth, so all that mechanical digestion goes on in the stomach, and that one was empty. No bugs or anything in there. I will show you some examples of some stomachs that had quite a bit of food in them. Those are fat bodies. The yellow, noodly looking structures there are fat bodies. Now the frog stores fat, right? Especially females, before they're going to get ready to come into condition to lay eggs. They store a lot of fat because that takes a lot of energy producing all those eggs. So you see the fat bodies pretty prevalent, especially in females. And I'm guessing this is a female at this point. I probably did. Of course, we're going to find out in a little bit here. But the fat bodies are fat storage for energy, just like we store fat for energy. The difference is the frog only has it in those places. They don't have it spread out throughout their body. But they do use it for energy store when there's leaner times. There's a gallbladder right there. I'm sorry, not gallbladder, spleen. That's one ovary right there. So yes, it is a female. Okay. I'm going to snip that one ovary out. There it is right there. And it was coming into condition. Many times when the females are way out of breeding condition, they're going to look way smaller than that. It's hard to, these are getting close to where they're going to be producing eggs, fairly large, pretty easy to identify. All right. There's small intestine right there. Attached to the large intestine, there's the bladder right there that I just moved with my scissors. So there's the small intestine that I just removed. And bladder right there, right above where the large intestine is. So I'm cutting the large intestine. You can see it. I opened it up and you can see what's left of probably feces right at that one opening. And I'm cutting spleen and other tissue that's just connective tissue out of there. I want you guys to be able to see the kidneys, so that's where I'm getting to. There's a little bit of fat that was left over. That right there that I'm cutting right now, that little tube, curly, windy looking little tube, that is the oviduct. That's where the eggs pass through from the ovary out their cloaca. The cloaca is the one all-purpose opening that they have. So it's a female lay eggs through there, also defecate through there, also not really urinate, but it's urates that they get rid of. And if it was a male, sperm would go through there, obviously the waste products too. So it's a one all-purpose opening called the cloaca. But those oviducts lead to there because that's where the eggs are going to pass through. So now I'm getting underneath the kidneys. Those are those dark organs right up against the spine. And it's best to get them from underneath, kind of at the top. There's a little bit of fat left on the kidneys, so I'm getting rid of that. A little bit of fat on the other side. Don't confuse that for testes, because it's not. We already removed the ovaries. We know this was a girl. But getting underneath the kidneys so we can remove those. And you can just see the base of the large intestine there right underneath. So those are the kidneys, the two dark looking organs there that lay in. See that white tube looking structure at the back? That is the spine. That's the backbone of that frog. We're all the way at the back of that frog. That's where the kidneys sit, right on top of that spine. Okay, so here's that paper I was talking about that the students would lay organs on. liver, stomach, lungs. You got the heart there, and sex organs, whether it's testes or ovaries, that's what they're supposed to put there. In this case, it was ovaries. So you'll see me point to that word right there, ovaries, because that's what those are. And there's the kidneys. So that's usually what I base the lab portion of the grade on, them separating out those organs, putting them in the right spot. So here's some examples of things we found in the frogs. This was what was left of a crayfish, crawdad, in the frog's stomach. Pretty rare. Only found one of those ever. That was it. Most of the time we find these kinds of beetles, June bugs, and you can see how that stomach is very stretched out, extended because it was full of those June bugs. Here's another one that I've only found one time, and this was a scorpion. You can see the tail there, and that was hidden amongst all these parts, and I couldn't tell what the parts were. The student was asking me about it, but I found that tail. And here is a one-of-a-kind also. I've never found this. The stomach was about to rip open. That is a mouse, and there it is, all curled up. This frog ate a mouse. These frogs are not bullfrogs. They're leopard frogs. To be able to swallow that, it's pretty amazing. See the head and the little claw. And another distended stomach full of June bugs. Had quite a few. I think there was about 8 in there. You're going to see one more example of a stomach full of beetles, bugs. There's a what looks like a water beetle along with the June bugs. So these frogs that had these things in them, they had a last meal before they died. Here's something we found in the stomach. This is 2 parts of a grasshopper leg that the frog just could not crush in its stomach. There you go. There's the comparison photo of a grasshopper leg. For those of you didn't believe it, that's what that is. And I thought I would throw in the comparison with the ovaries. There's the testes. You see them on either side of the kidney. They're still attached to the top of the kidneys. And that frog is coming into breeding condition where the testes are fairly large. So I'm turning it over so that you can see that's the kidneys on that side.